RF Hartwell shared this over on our Reddit subsection, and this is something interesting. So Kshama Sawant is the city council member in Seattle, Washington. She is also the reason, or one of the reasons, I shouldn't, of course it was a movement, not just her, but she's a big reason, a big piece, a big component of how the Fight for 15 really got national attention. And it started right in her backyard. She is proof that you have a lot of power locally. And I know I've said this before, it bears repeating. If you're listening to this show and you think, you know what, I want to get involved, and I think that the side of the fence I want to be on is electoral politics, I know it's tempting to just run for Congress or run for Senate, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just take 5 minutes. I strongly encourage you, take 5 minutes and think about city council or even mayor instead. Just think about it. Just think about it. You know, if you're convinced that Congress is the way to go, do you, man? I'm not telling people what to do, but just think for a minute about, well, what if I ran for city council? Kshama Sawant is proof at what you can really do, not just in your community, but what the kind of effect you can have on a national scale if you run for city council. There is strength in your community. There is strength locally. And there is way less hijinks. There is way less debauchery. Does corruption in politics happen on the local level? Of course it does. Absolutely. But it's a lot more kind of easy to have one's thumb on the pulse of. It really is, compared to the state and national scale. It's a lot more accessible because you know what? Those people, they all live in your community too. So Kshama Sawant, Seattle council member, and she also was pushing for Amazon to pay more in taxes. They were pushing for a homeless tax where a lot of the biggest corporations in Seattle were going to have to pay a tax to help out with homelessness. It was a moderate tax. It was a very reasonable ask. The city provides them with so many resources. It was a very reasonable ask to get a little bit back. A lot of the companies it pertained to, pretty much all of them, had no problem. They were like, fine, we'll pay that. It pertained to, I think, at least like 8 companies, like the biggest corporations in Seattle. And a lot of them, to their credit, were like, fine, we'll pay that. That's fine. Amazon didn't want to, though. Jeff Bezos didn't want to. So he made a big stink about it. And eventually they got what they wanted. Eventually they ceded. The city gave up on it. And then, you know what else Jeff Bezos did? When it came re-election time, they pumped over $1 million into Kshama Sawant's opponent to try to get her out of city council. They wanted her off of it. They wanted that socialist gone. But they didn't beat her. She still won anyway. And now they're still trying to mess with her. Check this out. Seattle's Kshama Sawant charged with violating city law by using council office to promote tax Amazon initiative. Faced Tuesday with charges that she violated Seattle laws by using her public office to promote a potential tax Amazon ballot measure. City council member Kshama Sawant vowed to push ahead. She has pledged to promote the tax legislation for council consideration. So here's what she had to say. My council office has been preparing legislation to tax Amazon and big business. I will be unveiling the outline of this legislation tomorrow. So the allegations against her, they're saying she broke 2 laws when her office posted links from her official council website to materials related to the tax Amazon campaign. And here's what that violates: an elections law that prohibits the use of city facilities to promote ballot measures, and an ethics law that prohibits the use of city resources for non-city purposes. In her statement, Sawant described the matter as a misunderstanding. I look forward to meeting with the commission to resolve this matter. So here's what they're saying she did. A link to the Facebook page promoting a Tax Amazon Action Conference. The page included the message, our immediate task is to file a grassroots ballots initiative. Okay, so we can begin selecting signatures. A link to the resolution to tax Amazon and big business. The resolution stated we will need to collect 22,000 valid signatures. So what I think this likely is, and every city's different. I don't live in Seattle. I actually used to at one point, but I haven't in years. What I think this really is that, you know, there's very distinct rules as to what you can and can't do as far as if you are in office. Now, obviously, if you're an elected official, you need to talk about ballot measures, I would imagine, because that's what you do. You're an elected official. You bring about policy. You try to educate the public on, what decisions they can make and stuff like that when it comes to different policies and different ideas. But there's probably some restrictions as to you can't have certain calls to action using city resources. Like you can't say sign this here or something like that. That's my guess. And what they did was they really got nitpicky with Kshama Sawant because they're keeping an eye on her because they want to get rid of her. So they kind of, they were really keeping a close magnifying glass on her, and they're trying to say, oh, well, she violated this certain thing. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to nitpick so they can be like, well, technically she can't do this. That's what's happening. Because it's not like, what probably happened, it probably wasn't just that she brought up the resolution itself. It's probably the calls to action involved that they're saying, well, technically you can't do this. Because again, let's see what they're saying. She broke the use of city resources for non-city purposes. Well, I think that's a stretch because obviously this is for city purposes. What they're going to try to do is they're going to try to say, well, going against something like Amazon, that's not a city purpose. That's not pertaining directly to the city of Seattle. That's what they're going to try to say. Although it does pertain to the city of Seattle because taxing them, those resources would go back into the city. That's why originally they were going to tax them more to help the homeless. So they're going to try to say, well, going after Amazon, that's a non-city purpose, even though there is an obvious connection. And they're going to say you can't use city facilities to promote ballot measures. So the fact that she said, we're going to try to get signatures, these are the amount of signatures we need, that's where they're going to try to ding her. Because they're like, well, you're actually promoting it. You're not just informing, you're promoting a certain agenda instead of just informing and letting the voters decide. That's what they're trying to get her on. And I bet you if a different elected official did this, and maybe the cause was a little more on the pro-business side of the coin, I bet they wouldn't get dinged for this. I bet you. I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to bet an Amazon gift card on it. If it was a pro-business measure that did the same minor violation, nothing would occur about this. I'd be willing to bet you an Amazon gift card. But best wishes to Kshama Sawant. Hope it gets resolved quickly, and I hope she's able to move forward with that city resolution.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your